Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are going straight into one of the most chilling mysteries I think I've ever come across.
It's a true crime story that feels like something out of a horror film.
It really does. We're talking about a 1959 incident that Soviet authorities officially closed with just 3 words. An unknown compelling force.
Chilling. So, our setting is the northern Ural Mountains. On a peak, the local Mansi people call Kholat Syakhl.
Which means dead mountain.
Exactly. And on that mountain, 9 incredibly experienced Soviet hikers, young, athletic students, and graduates, were on a brutal winter trek.
This wasn't a casual trip. They were aiming for the highest certification in mountaineering. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, who's only 23.
These people knew what they were doing. They were prepared for anything.
Or, well, they thought they were. Because on the night of February 1st, 1959, something happened that it defies all logic.
It really does.
So today, our mission is to dig into those case files, the diaries they left behind, and all the conflicting theories to try and figure out what really happened.
It's important to start with their mindset, you know? The photos and diaries from the start of the trip, they paint this picture of just youthful joy.
Yeah, they were singing, joking around. It was the start of Khrushchev's thaw, and you can feel that sense of freedom.
And this was a really tight-knit, highly trained team, but there's this piece of tragic irony right at the start of the story.
The 10th hiker.
The 10th hiker, Yuri Udin. As the group pushed on toward their goal, a mountain ominously named Otorten, which means don't go there.
You can't make this stuff up.
You really can't. Udin had this terrible flare-up of sciatica and knee pain.
So on January 28th, just a few days before everything went wrong, he decides he has to turn back.
A painful decision. Literally, he said his goodbyes, and that choice, that simple physical ailment, it saved his life.
Wow. He was the last person to see them all alive. What a burden to carry.
An incredible burden.
So let's jump forward to when they're discovered. February 26th. The search parties finally locate the camp.
And this is where the evidence just starts screaming that something is deeply, deeply wrong.
They find the tent on the slope of Dead Mountain.
And the inside is, well, it's almost pristine. You've got their rucksacks, their boots, all stacked neatly, money, papers, even food that was, partially prepared on a plate.
All the things they would need to survive.
Everything abandoned.
If you're evacuating in an emergency, you grab your boots.
Yeah.
You grab your coat. But they left it all. It suggests the threat was so immediate, so overwhelming, that even 30 seconds was too long.
Exactly, and that's confirmed by the most critical detail. The tent wasn't unzipped.
No.
It was slashed open.
Slashed open from the inside.
From the inside, with a knife.
So just picture it. You have 9 expert mountaineers.
Mm.
They choose to cut their way out of their only shelter into minus 20 degrees Celsius weather.
At least with high winds.
And they do it without their boots or their coats. I mean, what kind of terror makes you do that?
Your first thought would be, okay, they panicked. They ran. A stampede. But the footprints tell a different story, a much stranger one. Investigators found 9 sets of tracks. People in socks, 1 boot, some completely barefoot. And they were leading down toward the forest, about 1.5 miles away.
And this is the part that gives me goosebumps. The forensic experts determined they were walking.
Walking. Calmly.
Not running, not scrambling. A measured, controlled pace downhill into the woods. How do you square that? A calm walk with a terror so bad you cut your own shelter apart.
You can't. It's the central puzzle. It makes no rational sense.
So the searchers follow these footprints 1.5 kilometers down to the edge of the forest.
To a large Siberian pine tree, and this is where you see the first signs of sheer desperation.
The first 2 bodies.
Doroshenko and Krivonashenko. They were found stripped down to their underwear. They tried to start a small fire, but it failed.
And the tree itself tells a story, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Branches on the tree were broken up to 5 meters high.
5 meters. So what, 16 feet up?
Yeah. Someone climbed that tree, probably to look back at the tent, or maybe to escape something on the ground below them.
In Krivonashenko's body, the detail about his hand.
It's brutal. He had severe burns, but he had also bitten off a piece of his own knuckle.
Which is a sign of just overwhelming pain or delirium.
An unimaginable state of mind.
Then they find the next 3 bodies. Dyatlov himself, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. They're scattered at the slope, almost like they were trying to get back to the tent.
And they were slightly better dressed. It seems like they may have taken some clothes from their friends who had already died.
So there's still some rational thought happening.
There is, but the injuries are strange. Kolmogorova had this long, bright red bruise, almost like she'd been hit with a baton. Slobodin had a minor skull fracture. But the official cause of death for them was hypothermia.
Which brings up paradoxical undressing.
Exactly. The theory that when you're freezing to death, you get this false sensation of being incredibly hot, so you start taking your clothes off.
And that would explain the first two bodies being in their underwear.
It would. But then you have this contradiction again. If they were in a state of delusion, how did the others have the presence of mind to take their clothes? That's survival thinking.
It's like they were fighting between delusion and strategy, and losing.
And making fatal choices under this impossible pressure.
But if you think that part of the story is horrifying, it's nothing compared to what they found 3 months later, in May.
No. The last 4 bodies were found in a ravine, buried under 10, maybe 15 feet of snow. They had tried to build a small snow den.
And this is where the mystery goes from tragedy to just outright forensic horror.
It's the injuries. They defy any simple explanation.
Let's go through them. Thibaut Brignol had a catastrophic skull injury. Pieces of bone were literally driven into his brain.
Then you have Zolotaryov and Dubinina. They both had what the medical examiner called major crushed chests, multiple broken ribs.
And the examiner, Boris Vozvorzdany, he was really clear about this, right?
Incredibly clear. He said the force needed to cause those injuries was, and I'm quoting here, comparable to that of a car crash.
A car crash. And this is the impossible part. They had no major external wounds.
None. No deep cuts. No massive bruises on the skin corresponding to those injuries.
How is that possible? How do you get crushed by the force of a car without breaking the skin?
It is the central physical anomaly of the entire case. And it gets worse.
The soft tissue damage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ludmila Dubinina. She was missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her lip. Zolotaryov was also missing his eyes.
Now, some people say animals, right? Scavengers.
It's possible, but combined with the massive, unexplained internal trauma, it sends your mind to much darker places.
So the Soviet investigation wraps up almost immediately after this in May of '59.
So fast, and their conclusion was just deliberately vague. Death caused by a compelling natural force. Case closed. Files classified.
Which, to anyone listening, just screams cover-up.
Absolutely. The secrecy itself becomes the story. Decades later, the lead investigator, Lev Ivanov, admitted he was ordered by high-ranking officials to drop the case and suppress certain findings.
Specifically, what was he told to suppress?
Reports of glowing orange orbs or fireballs in the sky around that time, seen by other people in the area.
Fireballs in the sky. And then there's the radiation.
The radiation question. Unnaturally high levels of radiation were found on some of the victims' clothing.
And the context there is so important. One of the hikers, Kurvanishenko, had done cleanup work at the Mayak nuclear facility.
Which was the site of the Kishtim disaster in '57, one of the worst nuclear accidents in history, which the Soviets completely covered up.
So on one hand, the radiation could be from something innocent, like lantern mantles.
Or it could be residual contamination. But if you're the Soviet government in 1959 and you have a case with unexplained blunt force trauma, fireballs, and radiation...
You shut it down, you call it a natural force, and you bury it.
And that secrecy is what fuels all the theories that came next.
Okay, let's get into those theories, because this is where it gets wild. The most persistent one has to be military testing.
Right. The idea is that the hikers just stumbled into the wrong place at the wrong time. A secret weapons test. Maybe air-detonated parachute mines or something radiological.
And that would explain a lot.
It explains almost everything. An airburst explosion could create a pressure wave that causes those crushing internal injuries without external marks. The glowing orbs would be the weapons themselves. And, of course, the radiation would be a direct result.
Then you get the spy scenario, the Cold War thriller version.
This one is fascinating. It suggests that a few members of the group, like Zolotaryov, the oldest member with a strange tattoo.
He was a bit of a mysterious figure.
Very. The theory is they were actually KGB on a secret mission to deliver radioactive samples to Western spies, but the deal went bad.
And the whole group was liquidated to cover it up. It explains the trauma, the radiation, and the secrecy.
It does. But now we have to turn to the modern scientific theories. In 2020, the Russian government actually reopened the case and endorsed one in particular.
The slab avalanche theory.
That's the one. The idea is that when they dug out a pit for their tent, combined with these powerful downhill winds called katabatic winds, it created the perfect conditions for a delayed slab of snow to break off and collapse right onto the tent.
And that slab would have the crushing force needed for those injuries.
Exactly. And to prove it, they used these complex computer models, including, and this is true, snow simulation code that was borrowed from the Disney movie Frozen.
Wait, really? From Drozen?
Yes. The animation tech used for Elsa's ice palace helped prove that the physics of a delayed slab avalanche were plausible.
That is an amazing detail.
Oh,
But this theory has holes, right?
yeah,
Skeptics point out a lot of problems.
big ones. Like, how could an avalanche hit the tent but leave skis and a tent pole standing upright nearby? And why would experienced mountaineers camp in an avalanche zone in the first place? And again, why walk calmly away? You'd run.
You'd run for your life.
Then there's one more natural theory, the infrasound hypothesis.
This one is really interesting. The idea that the wind blowing over the peak created a low-frequency sound below human hearing.
But that sound can have intense psychological effects. It can induce pure, irrational terror, panic, nausea.
So the infrasound drove them mad, basically, made them flee the tent in a state of delusion, which led to their deaths.
That's the theory. It explains the irrational flight, but maybe not the physical injuries.
So after all of this,
Yeah.
military tests, spies, avalanches, sound waves, the central mystery is still there. You have this experienced group, a bizarre flight from their tent, and these catastrophic injuries.
The contradiction never goes away.
Right.
Even if you accept the slab avalanche, that it caused the initial injuries and forced them out, you still have to answer the next question.
Why didn't the survivors just go back to the tent?
Exactly. They were rational enough to build a fire, to build a den, to take clothes from the dead. That's strategic thinking, so why didn't they make the most logical strategic choice and go back 1.5 kilometers to the shelter with all their gear?
They chose a slower, colder death in that ravine instead. It doesn't make sense.
And that brings us back to Lev Ivanov, the first investigator who was told to bury the case. And I think this is the thought we should leave you with.
In a system that was built on state secrets, the idea of a compelling natural force it feels less compelling than the idea that the truth itself was the thing being covered up.
The Dyatlov Pass incident might not just be a story about the terror of nature. It might also be a story about the terrifying power of human silence.